My name is Jordan Wells, and I'm 28 years old. 3 days ago, I walked into Apex Marketing Solutions for what I thought would be a routine client meeting. Instead, I walked into a nightmare that would change everything. I'm a freelance brand strategist, someone who helps companies rebuild their image when they're struggling. I've worked with small businesses and medium-sized firms across Lagos, building their social media presence and fixing their reputation problems. My work isn't glamorous, but it's honest and it pays my bills. That morning, I had no idea I was about to meet the 3 people who would try to humiliate me publicly, only to lose everything by sunset. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand what happened, you need to know how I ended up in that conference room. 2 weeks earlier, I'd received an email from Apex Marketing Solutions. They wanted to discuss a potential partnership. Apex was a mid-sized agency with about 40 employees, known for handling corporate accounts and charging premium prices. The email came from their operations manager, Kenneth Okonkwo. He said they'd heard good things about my work with struggling brands and wanted to explore collaboration. I was excited. Working with an established agency could open doors I'd been knocking on for years. I replied immediately, suggesting we meet to discuss details. Kenneth scheduled the meeting for Wednesday at 10 a.m. He told me to bring my portfolio and be ready to present my approach. I spent the entire weekend preparing a presentation showcasing my best campaigns and case studies. Wednesday morning arrived with perfect weather. I dressed carefully in my best navy suit, the one I saved for important meetings. I took 2 buses to reach Apex's office in Victoria Island, arriving 15 minutes early. The reception area was sleek and modern, all glass and chrome with expensive leather furniture. A young receptionist barely looked up when I introduced myself. She pointed to a waiting area and told me someone would fetch me. I sat down, reviewing my notes one last time. Around me, employees hurried past with coffee cups and folders, looking busy and important. I felt a flutter of nervousness mixed with excitement. This could be the break I'd been working toward for 3 years. If Apex partnered with me, I could finally afford better equipment and maybe hire an assistant. At exactly 10:15, a woman in her early 30s approached me. She introduced herself as Patricia Nusu, the senior account manager. Her handshake was limp and brief. She led me through the office without making conversation, her heels clicking sharply on the polished floor. We entered a large conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Lagos skyline. 3 people were already seated at the long table. Patricia introduced them quickly. Kenneth Okonkwo, the operations manager who'd emailed me, sat at the head of the table. He was around 40, with a round face and expensive watch. Next to him was Chidi Ease, their creative director, younger and wearing designer glasses. The third person was Blessing Adimi, their business development manager, a woman in her late 30s with perfectly styled braids. I set up my laptop to present, connecting it to their projector system. The room felt cold despite the morning heat outside. Kenneth gestured for me to begin without any pleasantries or welcome. I launched into my presentation, explaining my approach to brand rehabilitation and showing metrics from successful campaigns. I'd helped a struggling restaurant chain increase their customer base by 40% in 6 months. I'd rebuilt the reputation of a tech startup after a product failure scandal. My work spoke for itself, or so I thought. As I presented, I noticed something strange. Kenneth kept checking his phone. Patricia was whispering to Blessing behind her hand. Chidi wasn't even looking at the screen. Their disinterest was obvious, almost insulting. But I pushed through, finishing my presentation with my strongest case study. When I finished, silence filled the room. It stretched for what felt like hours but was probably only 30 seconds. Then Kenneth leaned back in his chair and laughed. It wasn't a polite chuckle or a nervous laugh. It was loud, mocking, deliberate. Patricia and Blessing joined in immediately, their laughter echoing off the glass walls. Chidi just smirked, shaking his head slowly. I stood there, confused and embarrassed, my hand still on my laptop. Is something wrong with my presentation? I managed to ask, my voice sounding smaller than I wanted. Kenneth wiped his eyes dramatically, like he'd just heard the funniest joke of his life. Wrong, he repeated. No, nothing's wrong. It's just hilarious that you actually thought we'd work with someone like you. The words hit me like a physical blow. Blessing leaned forward, her perfectly manicured nails drumming on the table. "Let me be clear," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "We don't work with losers here. This is Apex Marketing Solutions. We handle major corporate accounts, multinational clients. You think your little restaurant campaigns and small business projects impress us?" Patricia laughed again, harder this time. "Did you really think we wanted to partner with you? Look at your suit. Look at your worn-out laptop bag. You probably took 2 buses to get here, didn't you?" Her words cut deep because they were true. I had taken 2 buses. My laptop bag was 5 years old, the strap held together with duct tape. My suit was my only good one, bought on sale 3 years ago. But I'd been proud of it this morning. Chitty finally spoke, his voice calm and cruel. "We invited you here for entertainment," he said flatly. "Kenneth mentioned you in a team meeting, some small-time freelancer thinking he's a real strategist. We thought it would be funny to watch you present, to see how serious you'd take it. You actually prepared slides." He laughed, a cold sound without humor. My face burned with humiliation. My hands trembled as I closed my laptop. "You invited me here as a joke?" I asked, needing to hear them confirm it. Kenneth nodded enthusiastically. "Exactly. Come on, you can't be that naive. Why would Apex Marketing Solutions need someone like you? We were bored. Tuesday meetings are always dull. This was our entertainment for the week." Around the table, they were all grinning now, enjoying my discomfort. I should have left immediately. I should have grabbed my things and walked out with whatever dignity I had left. But something kept me rooted to the spot. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was the unfairness of it all. I'd spent hours preparing for this meeting. I'd invested hope and time and energy into what I thought was a genuine opportunity. They'd deliberately wasted all of it for their amusement. "That's cruel," I said quietly. Patricia rolled her eyes. "Oh please, don't be so sensitive. It's just business. You'll recover. Go back to your little projects and your cheap clients. Leave the real marketing to professionals." Blessing stood up, clearly ready to end this meeting. "Security will show you out," she said dismissively. Thanks for the laugh. Truly, this was better than coffee. That's when I noticed something. On the conference table, partially hidden under Kenneth's notepad, was a folder. The company logo on the tab was instantly recognizable. Titanium Holdings. My blood went cold. Titanium Holdings was one of the largest conglomerates in Nigeria, with interests in telecommunications, real estate, and technology. They owned half the office buildings in Lagos. And 3 months ago, they'd hired me for a confidential project. Not Apex. Me. The folder shouldn't have been there unless Apex was pitching to Titanium. Which meant they were probably presenting proposals this week, trying to win Titanium's account. I knew something they didn't. Titanium Holdings was owned by Marcus Obi, a 52-year-old businessman who valued loyalty and integrity above everything else. I knew this because I'd spent 3 months working directly with him, and he'd told me. "I'll leave now," I said calmly, packing my laptop carefully. My humiliation was transforming into something else. Something colder and sharper. Kenneth waved his hand dismissively. "Good. Don't let the door hit you on the way out, loser." I walked out of that conference room with my head up, even though inside I was burning with anger and shame. The receptionist didn't look up as I passed. Other employees glanced at me briefly, then returned to their work. Nobody knew what had just happened. Nobody cared. I walked to the elevator, pressed the button, and waited. As the doors closed, I pulled out my phone. I had Marcus Obi's direct number saved in my contacts. He'd given it to me personally, telling me to call if I ever needed anything. I'd never used it before, saving it for emergencies. This qualified. I called Marcus from the lobby of Apex's building. He answered on the second ring. "Jordan, I haven't heard from you in weeks. How's everything going?" His voice was warm, genuinely pleased to hear from me. "Mr. Obi," I said, keeping my voice steady despite everything churning inside me. "I need to tell you something important. It's about Apex Marketing Solutions." There was a pause. "Apex. They're pitching to us this Friday. We're considering them for our new telecommunications campaign. Do you know something I should know?" I took a deep breath. Then I told him everything. The fake meeting invitation. The humiliation. The mocking laughter. The way they'd deliberately wasted my time for entertainment. I kept my voice factual, not emotional. I stated what happened without embellishment. Marcus listened in complete silence. When I finished, Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "Jordan," he finally said, and his voice had gone very cold. "Are you absolutely certain about this? You're telling me that Apex's senior management invited you to their office specifically to mock you? That they called you a loser to your face?" "Yes, sir," I confirmed. Kenneth Okonkwo, Patricia Nusu, Blessing Adime, and Chidi Ease. All of them were there. All of them participated. Marcus exhaled slowly. "I see. Jordan, you know I worked my way up from nothing, right? Started as a messenger boy 40 years ago. I've never forgotten what it feels like when people with power use it to humiliate people without it. I despise bullies. I despise cruelty disguised as entertainment." "I know, sir," I said quietly. That was partly why I'd called him. Marcus Obi's story was legendary in Lagos business circles. "Here's what's going to happen," Marcus said decisively. "Apex has a pitch meeting scheduled with my team this Friday at 2 p.m. They're one of 3 agencies competing for a 70 million naira contract. They've already invested heavily in their proposal. I'm going to let that meeting happen. But I want you there, Jordan. I want you sitting at that table when they walk in. Can you do that?" My heart started pounding. "You want me at the meeting? In what capacity?" "As my personal consultant," Marcus replied. "You still work for me on various projects, correct?" "That's not a lie. You'll be there in an official capacity. I want to see their faces when they realize who you really are. I want them to understand exactly what they've lost." A cold satisfaction spread through my chest. "I'll be there, Mr. Obi." "Good," Marcus said. "Wear your best suit. Hell, go buy a new one on my account. I'll have my assistant send you the details. And Jordan, don't contact them before the meeting. Don't give them any warning. Let them walk in completely unprepared." "Understood," I said. We hung up. I stood in the lobby of Apex Marketing Solutions, looking back at the building where I'd just been humiliated. In 2 days, I would return to this building. But everything would be different. I spent Wednesday afternoon in a haze, barely processing what had happened or what was coming. Thursday morning, Marcus's assistant called with meeting details and told me a car would collect me Friday at 1 p.m. She also informed me that a shopping account had been opened at a luxury menswear store downtown. "Mr. Obi insists you look the part," she said. I bought a charcoal gray suit that cost more than my monthly rent. The tailor fitted it perfectly, taking in the jacket and hemming the trousers. I bought new shoes, a crisp white shirt, and a dark blue tie. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. I looked successful, confident, like someone who belonged in rooms where decisions worth millions were made. Friday morning, I woke at 6 a.m., too nervous to sleep longer. I showered, dressed carefully, and checked my appearance 10 times. At exactly 1 p.m., a black Mercedes pulled up outside my apartment building. The driver opened the door for me. We drove to Titanium Holdings headquarters, a gleaming 40-story tower in the heart of Victoria Island. Marcus's assistant met me in the lobby and escorted me to the 35th floor where the executive conference room was located. The conference room was massive, with a table that could seat 20 people. One wall was entirely windows, offering a breathtaking view of Lagos. Marcus was already there, reviewing documents with 2 other executives I didn't recognize. He looked up when I entered and smiled warmly. "Jordan, come in, come in. Let me introduce you." He introduced me to his chief marketing officer and his head of corporate communications. Both treated me with respect and professionalism. Marcus gestured to a seat at the table, directly across from where the Apex team would sit. "Make yourself comfortable," he said. "They'll be here in 20 minutes. I want you relaxed and confident. You belong here. They're about to learn that the hard way." I sat down, my heart hammering against my ribs. This was really happening. At exactly 2 p.m., the conference room door opened. Patricia walked in first, followed by Kenneth, Blessing, and Chidi. They were all dressed immaculately, carrying leather folders and projectors. They were smiling, confident, ready to win a contract worth 70 million naira. Then Patricia saw me. Her smile froze on her face. Her steps faltered. Kenneth walked directly into her back because she'd stopped so suddenly. "What?" he started to say, then followed her gaze. His eyes went wide with shock. Blessing and Chitty stopped in the doorway, staring. The confident energy they'd carried into the room evaporated instantly. You could see the calculations running through their heads. What was I doing there? Why was I sitting at the table like I belonged? Marcus stood, extending his hand to Kenneth. "Mr. Okonkwo, welcome. I'm Marcus Obi." Kenneth shook Marcus's hand mechanically, his eyes still darting between Marcus and me. "Mr. Obi, thank you for this opportunity. We're excited to present our proposal. Please, sit," Marcus said graciously, gesturing to the chairs across from us. The Apex team sat slowly, their earlier confidence completely gone. They kept glancing at me, trying to understand. I sat perfectly still, my expression neutral. Professional. I didn't smile. I didn't acknowledge them. I just existed in that space, undeniable and unexplained. Marcus settled back in his chair. "Before we begin your presentation," he said casually, "let me introduce my team. This is Sandra, my CMO, and David, head of corporate communications. And this is Jordan Wells, my personal brand consultant." Jordan's been working with Titanium Holdings for several months now on various strategic projects. He'll be evaluating your proposal today. The color drained from Patricia's face completely. Kenneth's mouth opened and closed without sound. Blessing's perfectly styled composure cracked, her eyes going wide with dawning horror. Chitty had gone absolutely rigid, frozen like someone who'd just realized they'd walked into a trap. "Jordan works for you," Kenneth finally managed to say, his voice strangled. "Has for months," Marcus confirmed cheerfully. "He's one of my most trusted consultants. Brilliant strategist. I don't make major marketing decisions without his input." He turned to me with a warm smile. "Jordan, didn't you mention meeting with some folks from Apex earlier this week? Small world, isn't it?" Every eye turned to me. I finally spoke, my voice calm and cold. "Yes, sir. I met with them Wednesday morning. Very memorable meeting." The silence in that room was suffocating. Patricia's hands were shaking. Kenneth had gone pale. Blessing looked like she might be sick. Marcus leaned forward slightly. "Please, begin your presentation. We're very interested to see what Apex Marketing Solutions has to offer Titanium Holdings." "Jordan will be taking notes." Kenneth tried. He really did. He opened his laptop, connected it to the projector, and started talking about market analysis and target demographics. But his voice shook. His hands trembled. He kept losing his place in his notes. Patricia tried to help, jumping in with statistics and case studies, but her voice was too high, too desperate. They could see their 70 million naira contract evaporating before their eyes. They knew, absolutely knew, that I had told Marcus everything. Their presentation lasted 20 minutes instead of the planned 45. They rushed through slides, stumbling over words, unable to maintain eye contact with anyone. It was painful to watch. When they finished, Marcus thanked them politely. "We'll review your proposal and get back to you by Monday," Marcus said, standing to indicate the meeting was over. Kenneth stood quickly, too quickly, nearly knocking his chair over. "Mr. Obi, if I could just speak with you privately for a moment." "That won't be necessary," Marcus cut him off smoothly. "We have everything we need. Thank you for coming." He extended his hand for a final handshake. Kenneth took it, his palm visibly sweating. The Apex team gathered their materials in awkward silence and left. The door closed behind them. Marcus waited exactly 5 seconds, then turned to Sandra and David. "Cancel any further consideration of Apex Marketing Solutions. We won't be working with them. Ever." He looked at me. "Jordan, you'll handle our telecommunications campaign instead. I'll triple your usual rate. Consider it compensation for your time and dignity." I left Titanium Holdings at 4 p.m. The satisfaction I felt was different from what I'd expected. It wasn't triumphant or gleeful. It was quieter than that. It was the satisfaction of seeing justice served, of watching bullies face consequences for their cruelty. I went home and waited. At 6:30 p.m., my phone buzzed with an email notification. It was from Kenneth Okonkwo. The subject line read, "Urgent, please. Read." I opened it. The message was desperate, apologetic, and pathetic. Kenneth claimed they'd been joking on Wednesday, that I'd misunderstood their sense of humor. He begged me to reconsider, to not let one misunderstanding destroy a potential partnership. He offered to personally apologize, to make amends, to do whatever it took. He clearly didn't know I'd already seen Marcus. At 7:15 p.m., Patricia emailed me separately. Same desperate tone, same pathetic apologies. I didn't respond to either email. Instead, I forwarded them both to Marcus with a simple message, "For your records." He replied within minutes. Noted. "By the way, I had a conversation with their CEO this afternoon. Very enlightening. I learned later what Marcus had done. He'd called Apex's CEO directly and explained exactly what his senior management team had done. How they'd invited a professional to their office specifically to humiliate him. How they'd mocked someone's work, appearance, and economic status for entertainment. The CEO, horrified by the liability and reputational damage this could cause, acted immediately. By 6 p.m. Friday evening, Kenneth Okonkwo, Patricia Nusu, Blessing Adime, and Chitty Ease had all received termination letters. All four were fired for conduct unbecoming of the company, effective immediately. No severance beyond what was legally required. References would be neutral at best. Their careers at Apex Marketing Solutions ended the same day they'd tried to end my dignity. 3 weeks have passed since that Friday. I'm writing this from my new office, a proper office space I rented with the advance payment from Titanium Holdings. The telecommunications campaign I'm developing is the biggest project of my career. Marcus has referred me to 2 other companies in his network. My calendar is filling up with legitimate opportunities from clients who value my work. Sometimes I think about that Wednesday morning in Apex's conference room. The laughter, the cruel words, the assumption that someone's worth could be measured by their suit quality or which bus they took to work. Kenneth, Patricia, Blessing, and Chitty all tried to contact me in the weeks after their termination. Apologizing, explaining, begging for my help in finding new positions. I never responded, not out of cruelty, but because there was nothing left to say. They'd shown me exactly who they were when they thought I was powerless. I simply ensured they faced the consequences. My mother always told me that how you treat people without power reveals your true character. They revealed theirs. I just made sure the right person saw it. And honestly, that's all the revenge I ever needed. Justice served cold, precise, and absolutely deserved.